The AMOC isn't just a current, it's the Earth's oceanic circulation system, the great Atlantic conveyor that carries massive amounts of energy throughout all of the world. It moves warm water to the north in the Atlantic and cycles it back to the south of the Earth. It's the AMOC that releases the heat that gives France and Europe more generally a warmer climate that is typical for maritime climate at the same latitude. And it's failing. If the heart of the world stops, what would be the consequences? And what does it mean for our plans to build our own home using only natural materials that we find on this land?
Et je t'aime le punk, je t'aime. Et tout ce que je connais de bien, je te le dois. Et chaque fois qu'un squat fermera, je gueulerai comme un putois. Coupe-nous la tête, il en pousse deux. Avec des chicots plus dégueux. Si le punk est mort, je crois qu'on est nécrophile. Nécrophile.
The AMOC plays a fundamental role in the climate system regulation. In the North Atlantic, near Greenland and Norway, the water gets very cold and very salty. Because saltier, colder water is denser, it sinks rapidly to the ocean floor. This acts like a suction pump. As cold, salty water sinks, it pulls more warm water from the tropics up to replace it. The density difference created acts like a pump, a heart. Like blood, seawater travels in currents like arteries, redistributing heat and nutrients all over the world. The AMOC is currently experiencing something like clogged arteries or heart failure. As the Arctic is melting away, massive amounts of fresh water pours right into the North Atlantic. The fresh ice water is less dense than salty water, so it doesn't sink as easily. If the water stops sinking, the earth stops pumping, and the entire circulatory system, the AMOC, stops. Europe is at a similar latitude as Canada or Siberia. Without the AMOC, here in France, we will get every winter minus 30 degrees. Regularly, we will be living in a subarctic region.
This year in France, we registered the longest rain to ever happen since we started recording rain pattern. We had 31 days of consecutive rain. It's the apocalypse here. We are living a freaking months-lasting flood. And all of that is a consequence of climate change. Because the AMOC is stopping, everything is changing. Considering the evolution of the climate, our buildings aren't ready at all. Concrete has a high thermal mass but terrible insulation. It's a dumb material. It stays cold when you want it warm and hot when you want it cool. If the AMOC stops, Europe doesn't just get colder, it gets unpredictable. Concrete cannot adapt to a 20 degrees Celsius swing in 24 hours. It cracks. It's fragile. And it's a vicious circle because if concrete industry were a country, it would be the third largest CO2 emitter in the world, behind only the US and China. So we are facing two different kinds of monstrous adversary. On one hand, global monopoly that spent decades building a colossal titan with shallow feet. This concrete titan is a Ponzi scheme of carbon. It requires constant growth to stay standing, but every new floor it adds chokes the very air that keeps us alive. And on the other hand, we have a gigantic dragon like snake that has been here for centuries, carrying energy throughout all of the oceans. A godlike entity controlling the weather, the rain, the wind all over Europe, offering us mild climate, protecting us from freezing temperatures, saving our crops from droughts. This legendary weather dragon is slowly dying out from a very human disease, a stroke. And exactly like us, junk food and overeating is slowly killing both of us. It didn't care about our borders or our economies. It's simply running out of fuel because the Arctic is melting, poisoning this weather god with fresh water when it is exclusively a saltwater species. So it brings us an issue. Knowing that we need to keep building more and more habitation to house more and more people, how can we build a different world?
This winter has been extremely rainy. We haven't been in the region long, but locals all confirm it. It's a first in a lifetime. It's been months since we enjoyed 2 whole weeks without rain. In Occitania, usually, it mainly rains during autumn and spring, but this year it rained a lot during autumn and winter. We'll see for spring how things goes. For us, living outside, things have not been easy. The goats were lucky enough to find some abandoned house with a vaulted stone, mainly waterproof cellar. Because when it's been raining for days at our camp, the path becomes a riverbed. Our poor livestock guardian dog is always wet. Our chickens too. Our coats too. Everything inside the tent is damp. It's been hard on our morale. We miss the sun, for now. Won't be saying the same thing during the summer, probably. Additionally, with all this rain and wind, it's unbelievably difficult to locate the goats when they are roaming in the hills. Usually, we walk 2 hours up the hill and call them blowing the horn, calling for les chèvres really loud. And usually, when they can hear us, they come running, blotting back at us. But these days, we can barely hear ourselves think with this weather. This weather is, we think, the consequence of the AMOC stopping, or at least significantly slowing down. If Europe gets significantly colder and more stormy, we need materials that can handle extreme temperature shift and extreme humidity.
We plan on building our home with bushcraft using materials from our hills. We have an abundance of pine trees and chestnut trees. Pine trees are filled with a terpene-rich resin that protects the pine from rotting. The sap is usually boiled and applied on the outside of wood to make it waterproof. Chestnut trees use their structural density and high tannin content to make themselves naturally indigestible to fungi and insects, protecting them from rot. They are really sturdy on top of things. They make great construction wood. However, they need to be very dry for construction use, else they will shrink, move, twist, and crack as they dry. This should not be an issue for us because our terrain has a lot of dead chestnut trees trunk. The trees are still alive, they make multiple tree trunks next to one another. And it's often that one or two of them are dead but still standing, meaning that we can both help the living trees by cutting out the dead wood, allowing them to redistribute their resources more efficiently, like pruning. And we get a dry, ready-to-use walking timber.
This might not have been that impressive, but consider that the tool we're using are both rusty and blunt. I mean, look at that, it's like 2 millimeters thick. I could just. So, yeah, pure force and no really smart.
We also have an abundance of rock and clay in our region. Most old houses were built using stone back in the days. We can collect stone from the riverbed. It will be necessary for the base of our build, the part that will be most in contact with soil moisture. Clay is a great material. It's thermodynamic, meaning it provides the thermal mass to store heat. Also, clay is one of the best materials to deal with humidity. We can also swap clay with goat manure, which we have in abundance. If we mix it with straw, which provides a resistance to heat flow, so insulation, we get a home that keeps fresh in the summer and warm in the winter. It acts like a thermal battery. Well, for our specific case, we will use fern rather than straw because we have an abundance of it in our hills. And it blocks other species from growing, so it's a win-win. And it's easy to do. You cut loose fern in a thin slip of clay. You pack it into wooden frame. The clay protects the straw from the rot and fire, while the straw provides the insulation that straw clay lacks. Unlike concrete, straw and clay breathe and is a fantastic insulator. Also, unlike concrete, this method of construction stocks carbon rather than releasing it in the atmosphere. One upside of this breathability is that it absorbs the excess humidity on the inside and releases it outside, keeping a stable 50% humidity on the inside. However, it's sensitive to extreme humidity, so we need to build a sturdy waterproof roof. We are not sure on how we are going to make the roof yet. We could weave together ferns and stack them on the wooden roof structure, or maybe we could use a metal sheet. One thing we know for sure is that the roof needs to be goat resistant, as they will definitely try to walk on top of it, even chew it a little. Finally, we need to use the structure of the hill to our advantage. Using geothermy by digging deep in the soil will be vital to keep our home temperate during extreme weather events. Also, we are going to build our house with source exposition with similar techniques used in Earthship. We are going to have windows that will be fully exposed to the sun in the winter, but in the summer, when the sun is high in the sky, the windows will be in the shade of the roof, helping to keep the inside cool. All these natural materials and practical methods of construction will allow our home to be more resilient in the face of climate change than a typical concrete structure.
The AMOC is stopping. The old gods of the 20th century, concrete, oil, and capitalism, will crumble under climate change. But this isn't just an ending, it's a new beginning. In the forest, when a giant oak falls, the forest doesn't just die, the mycelium takes over. It breaks down old heavy wood and turns it into a network of communication and life. We are that mycelium. Building with earth, lime, and hemp isn't going backward, it's a technological awakening. We are moving from hard tech, which fights the planet, to soft tech, which dances with it. Just look at the ancient city of Shibam in Yemen, the Manhattan of the desert. It's one of the oldest and best examples of vertical planning urbanism. The world-old city contains about 500 tower houses, from 5 to 11 storied, that are made of mud bricks. This city has existed for over 2,000 years and still exists today, and houses right now 7,000 inhabitants, although much of the current structure was developed after 1532.
Let's look at some more recent examples of innovation that are going with the flow of nature rather than against it. The Eastgate Center in Zimbabwe has no conventional air conditioning. Instead, it uses passive cooling inspired by termite mounds. The building inhales cool air at night into its stone floor, thermal mass, and exhales hot air through chimneys during the day. It's a great example of biomimicry. The Tekla homes designed by Mario Cucinella architects are new incredible innovation. It's a 3D printed clay habitat made entirely from locally sourced raw earth. The house is dome-shaped, one of the sturdiest structures to exist. They look similar to super adobe houses, but they are much quicker to build as they can be printed in 200 hours. The walls are printed in a double dome shape with a specific inner ribbing structure that provides structural strength while creating air pockets for insulation. Also, as they are made from locally sourced clay, the house is both biodegradable and produces zero waste. Another new revolutionary innovation, the mycelium brick. Companies like The Living have built large structures like the Hi-Fi Tower in New York out of mushrooms. Agricultural waste is put into a mold with mycelium spores. The fungus grows eating from the waste and develops into a brick that is stronger than concrete by weight and incredibly fire resistant. These bricks grow in 5 days with zero heat, whereas concrete requires kilns at 1450 degrees Celsius. As those bricks are made from organic materials and mushrooms, they decompose naturally in time into the soil. Like clay, they are also great at regulating humidity and heat.
Current laws are written by the concrete titan to protect their economic interest, to keep making more and more, even if it's not the most ecological, not the most efficient, not the most resistant, not the most reliable. The capitalist apocalypse is here. We need to start building differently. It is possible, but it requires a revolution of regulation. We could also regulate homelessness. Check out our previous video where we talk about it. We also take a deep dive into ways of building with natural alternative materials.
Imagine a village where your home isn't a box that consumes energy, but a living skin that breathes with you. A home that stays warm not because we burn a tree, but because it remembers the sun's heat from 3 days ago. We are not the victims of the AMOC. We are the keystone species of a new era. We are learning to speak the language of the soul again. And in that language, crisis is just another word for opportunity to rebuild. Because revolution happens only in time of crisis. The AMOC is stopping. The world is getting colder in Europe, but the Earth's core is still warm. We aren't fighting the cold. We are hugging the planet for warmth.
Let's build together a new world full of hope, solidarity, and harmony. Let's build together a sustainable future, rid of capitalism and colonialism. Let's start sharing this world that is the birthplace of all life. Let's build together a Solarpunk world.
Tu tourne pas rond, mais moi j'avoue j'adore ça, te voir tracer ta route à l'arrache en zigzag. Ils font pitié tous ces marins d'eau douce, moi j'avoue j'adore ça quand tu fais les vagues. Bébé monstre, reste comme t'es, tant que je suis là t'auras de l'amour, je te promets. Bébé monstre, les écoute pas, de toute façon les humains c'est surcoté, sérieux t'es mal à gueule que ça. Ouais t'es mal à gueule que ça.